They're inside the building. Third floor, second floor. You can hear them, boots on marble, doors being kicked open, voices barking orders in German. A man sits on the edge of his bed in the dark. He is not sleeping. He stopped sleeping 3 nights ago. Because somewhere in this city, soldiers are stripping Rome to its bones, taking everything that glitters, everything that matters, everything on the list. And what is under this man's bed is on that list. Not jewelry, not paintings, not gold bars. The World Cup trophy. The actual World Cup trophy. The one Uruguay lifted in 1930, that Italy lifted in 1934 and 1938. The one that Hitler personally wants. Sitting in a shoebox, under a bed, in a city crawling with the people sent to find it. The boots stop outside his door. A fist hits the wood. The door swings open. What happens in the next 60 seconds decides whether the World Cup trophy ever exists again. To understand what is at stake in that apartment, you need to understand what is in that shoebox, the Jules Rimet Trophy, named after the man who built the World Cup from nothing, a French lawyer who believed football could connect a world that kept tearing itself apart. Gold-plated sterling silver, 35 centimeters tall, nearly 4 kilograms. A winged figure of Nike, the Greek goddess of victory, arms raised, holding a cup toward the sky. It had already traveled the world, carried across the Atlantic by Jules Rimet himself in a bag on a 2-week boat journey to Uruguay in 1930. Lifted again in Rome in 1934, in Paris in 1938. And then the war came. September 1939, Hitler invades Poland. Within months, the world is on fire. The World Cup is suspended. Stadiums sit empty. And the Jules Rimet Trophy, held by Italy, the 1938 champions, is moved to a bank vault in Rome, where the Italian Football Federation assumes it will be safe. They are wrong, because Hitler has a list, and on that list, alongside the Holy Grail and the Spear of Destiny, is the most famous trophy in football. His name was Ottorino Barassi, 45 years old, Italian lawyer, FIFA vice president, former footballer, not a soldier, not a spy, not a resistance fighter, a football administrator. But Barassi understood something with absolute clarity. When the Nazis occupied Rome, and they were coming, he could feel it. That bank vault would be one of the first things they cracked open. Gold in a vault in an occupied city doesn't stay in a vault. It never does. So one morning, without telling a single soul, Barassi walks into the bank. He opens the vault. He takes the trophy out. He wraps it, puts it in a shoebox, tucks it under his arm, and walks home through the streets of Rome. Let that sink in for a second. No elaborate plan, no government authorization, no network of people to help him. One man, in a city on the edge of invasion, walking home with the World Cup under his arm like he's carrying a birthday cake. He puts it under his bed, closes his eyes, and waits for what comes next. He doesn't have to wait long. September 1943. 25,000 German soldiers pour into Rome, and then begins a systematic dismantling of a city, street by street, block by block, apartment by apartment. The soldiers are not random. They are organized. They have lists. They have quotas. They are looking for valuables, gold, silver, art, and they are exceptionally good at finding them. Hidden compartments in walls, false bottoms in drawers, safe houses, secret rooms. They find all of it. And one day, they come to Ottorino Barassi's building. They work their way up the stairs, kicking in doors, searching rooms, taking what they find. They reach Barassi's apartment. They come inside. They move through the rooms. They are standing in his bedroom. the powerful army in Europe conducting a search in the same room as the World Cup trophy. Barassi doesn't speak, doesn't move toward them, doesn't look at the bed. The soldiers look around, check the wardrobe maybe, and then they leave. They walk back out the door, back down the stairs, on to the next apartment. The Jules Rimet Trophy, in a shoebox, under the bed, untouched. Barassi sits there in the silence they left behind, and breathes. The war doesn't end that night. It grinds on. 1944. Allied bombs fall on Rome. The city shakes. The shoebox doesn't move. 1944. The war in Europe ends. Italy begins crawling out of the rubble. Still, Barassi says nothing, tells no one. 1946. No World Cup. The world is too broken. 1949. Through every one of those years, through bombing runs and liberation and the complete collapse and reconstruction of a country, that shoebox sits under Ottorino Barassi's bed. 7 years. 7 years of keeping a secret that could have cost him everything. 7 years of knowing that the most famous object in football was under the same bed he slept in every night. And then, 1950. Brazil hosts the first World Cup since 1938. Barassi reaches under his bed. He opens the shoebox. The Jules Rimet Trophy, undamaged, untouched, every detail exactly as he left it, comes back into the light. He carries it to Brazil. The World Cup is back. And nobody, not Hitler, not the Nazis, not 7 years of war, had laid a finger on it. For the next 20 years, the Jules Rimet Trophy lives its most celebrated chapter. 1950, Uruguay lifted again. The Maracanã holds 200,000 people. When Uruguay score the winner, complete silence. The biggest crowd in football history, completely silent. 3 people die of heart attacks in the stands. 1954, West Germany win it. The first post-war World Cup final. A country destroyed, trying to rebuild itself and lifting the World Cup. 1958, a 17-year-old named Pelé scores twice in the final. He collapses on the pitch afterwards. His teammates have to carry him. He is weeping. He doesn't know why. 1962, Brazil again. 1966, England. But before England kicks a ball, the trophy is stolen from a stamp exhibition in Westminster. 7 days of national panic, locking yard, undercover operations, a ransom note, a heart attack. And then a dog named Pickles finds it under a hedge in South London, wrapped in newspaper. Bobby Moore lifts it at Wembley, the most iconic image in British sporting history. 1970, Brazil wins it for the 3rd time. FIFA rules, any nation that wins 3 times keeps the trophy permanently. Brazil takes it home to Rio de Janeiro, to a bulletproof glass cabinet, deep inside the headquarters of the Brazilian Football Confederation. After everything it has survived, the war, the Nazis, the London theft, it is safe, finally. Except, it isn't. December 19th, 1983, 3 a.m., Rio de Janeiro. 2 men break into the Brazilian Football Confederation headquarters. They overpower the night watchman. They walk straight to the cabinet. They don't bother with the bulletproof glass. They go through the plywood backing instead. They take the Jules Rimet Trophy. They take 2 other trophies while they're at it, and they walk out into the night. The mastermind, a banker named Sergio Peralta, is eventually caught. So are his accomplices. And what they tell investigators makes the whole world go quiet. The Jules Rimet Trophy, the trophy that Ottorino Barassi hid from Hitler in a shoebox, was melted down by an Argentine gold dealer, turned into bars. The winged Nike, the engraved names, Uruguay, Italy, Germany, Brazil. Pelé's fingerprints somewhere on the base, Bobby Moore's fingerprints, Jules Rimet's fingerprints. Dissolved. For the value of their medal. Gone. Ottorino Barassi died in November 1971. 12 years before the trophy he saved was melted down into gold bars by a Brazilian banker. He never knew. He went to his grave believing what he had done meant something permanent, that the trophy under his bed, the one the soldiers didn't find, would outlast him. It didn't. And here is the detail that changes everything. The trophy in every photograph you have ever seen, Bobby Moore holding it at Wembley, Pelé kissing it, Jules Rimet himself smiling beside it, is a replica. Made in 1966, when Scotland Yard feared the real one might never come back from the London theft, a secret replica was constructed. The real one went to Brazil in 1970, was stolen in 1983, was melted. What you have seen in every iconic image is a copy of the thing Barassi saved. The original is gone, melted into bars that were probably spent decades ago. One man hid the World Cup from the Nazis in a shoebox. 7 years under his bed, soldiers in his apartment, the war raging outside his window, and it survived, all of it, only to be melted down in the middle of the night by 2 men who went in through the plywood. That is what this trophy is. That is the story nobody tells.